Welcome back, and yes, we are in a new setup, but we're just continuing the video that you saw last. In that video, we organized all of the 2,500 photos from the Bears versus Lions game, and today we're going to edit them. So the stages of this video are going to go, pick the ones we want to edit, find about 5 to 10 photos that we want to edit, and then just go through, and I'm going to take you through exactly what I do whenever I'm editing these photos. There's some techniques that I'll do in all the photos, some that I only do in wides, some that I'll do in tights, but let's just get into editing. We're in Lightroom now, and as you see down here, there's some with the 5 stars. Those are the potential edits that I've blocked off. So let's double click up here to look, and now we're going to go to 4 stars for the ones that we actually want to edit. So 4 stars for that, greater than or equal to, and then 4 stars. Okay, so we got this one, Justin Fields, really like that. Think we'll be able to do something fun with that portrait. This one we already started to edit, but I do think I'm going to also edit that one a little bit more. We'll restart though, I promise. Without a doubt, the one of St. Brown, Jared Goff. This one will kind of be the same edit between these two, so we'll get both of those. Now let's go in-game. Like this one of LaPorta. Jahmyr Gibbs. Love these ones of Aiden Hutchinson celebrating. DJ Moore's crazy catches, of course. That one or that one? I'm thinking that one. We'll be able to crop in on that. DJ Moore touchdown catch. Justin Fields celebration. Already edited these ones of Montez Sweat. We're missing the DJ Moore touchdown. Did I pass it up? Let's go back here, scrub through all the photos. There it is. We want to do that. Started to edit it. The edit looks horrible so far, so obviously we're going to restart that one. So as of now, we have 13 that we want to edit. All right, let's do it. So first one we'll do is Justin Fields' portrait. This is post-game, but the order is all out of order because of the name of the file. But this is the first one we're going to do. Starting out with some basic corrections. Drop the highlights, bring out the shadows, mess with the whites. Be careful up here. You don't want to clip anything. Drop those blacks. A little bit of vibrance. Already, the jersey looks too purple to me, which is a constant problem throughout all of these Bears photos. But don't worry, we'll fix that. Go down to the hue. And you can do this 2 different ways. You can adjust the solo colors, or you can grab this and then just go on the jersey and adjust accordingly. I like the more teal look for the Bears photos because they're blue. They're not purple. So I want to maintain that blue color. And now we're going to go into the mask and we're going to select the subject. This one should be perfect. All good there. Then we're going to go duplicate and invert mask. So now we have the background selected and we have the foreground selected. You can even go dark with the background. I'm going to go bright though. And then the background, we're going to drop the clarity a bunch. That's how I get this kind of pro mist filter type look. And I like that the microphone isn't selected with Justin. You got this little part on the neck. So we're going to take that out of that background mask. We don't want that to sell the fact that we are messing with this photo. Then you go to the one of him. You're going to add to his neck with the brush. To add, you just click add and then select whatever you want. Like I said, we're doing brush. So now we have those selected and we can start to make the isolated edits. Mess with the minor things. Don't want to lose the info in his hat up here. So we're going to drop the highlights. Let's give it a little contrast. A little bit of saturation. We're going to warm it up quite a bit. Make sure we dial in those skin tones. I don't like to isolate the skin tones necessarily because then it ends up editing all of him differently, so we'll edit it all the same. If we need to change the hue in the jersey after the fact, we can always go back and do that. Drop that. We're actually going to give a little bit of contrast to the foreground, so then whenever we drop the contrast and clarity, so when we drop the clarity and the dehaze in the background, it's this dreamy background look, and then he pops a ton. Already cropped in on this one a bunch. If you see right here, that's what the original photo is. We're cropping in there so we can be tight on him. Still want to maintain a little bit of that microphone. I actually might get a little bit more like that. Make sure his hat doesn't get cut off. I think right there, before, after, I think we're good. That one is totally dialed in. I'm happy with it. Moving on. Now we got Justin Fields during pregame. Like I said, we already started to edit this one a little bit, so we're going to reset and start from the beginning. Right away, you see that it's crooked, and we edited this one a little bit in the previous video, but we're going to start from scratch. If you haven't checked out that video, I highly recommend you go check it out. It's really how I take my 2,500 photos down to 200 that I'll send to the team, so I go through them and they don't have to worry about going through them. First thing we're going to do with this photo is we're going to straighten it out. So I'm just kind of going to use the line on the field here as my level to straighten it out. Right there, pretty straight, and I love the glow of these lights. There's a couple different things I can do here. I could potentially just crop in a ton on him, which does look good, but I like having some detail in the pants, and I like the orange in the socks. Creates atmosphere of where we are in that wide perspective. Of course, first things first, we're going to drop those highlights, really just even out the photo overall. Cool. Give it a little vibrance, and now this is looking like a very normal photo, like we wanted it to look like it did when we were there. That's not really my style for these NFL photos most of the time. We're going to go select subject. Once we do that, you see it grabbed a little bit of the foot in the background of the player behind him, so we will subtract that just with a simple brush. And then we will right click and we will duplicate and invert that mask. So same thing, we have the background selected and we have the foreground selected. First thing we're going to do is we're going to edit that background. Very similar technique that I always do. Drop that clarity immediately, drop that dehaze. Make it look like it's a little bit foggy. This is how I get my artistic look for all of these different photos from throughout these games. Mess with the highlights and the exposure. Feels a little too cold on the background, so we're going to warm it up. We're actually going to desaturate it a little bit too. Warm it up a little more. And I don't mind whenever the grass starts to look like that. No, it doesn't look exactly natural, but it'll be all right. Going to drop the blacks, and I want to lose the detail in here. It's kind of cool to have a line going through there, so crushing those shadows, combating that contrast with dropping the highlights because we don't want to lose that data in the lights. Really darkening that background overall. Okay, now let's go to Justin in the foreground. Make some minor corrections. Don't want to get any blown out areas in his pants, so we will mess with that. Really get a nice white going there. And look at the color of that jersey. That is the Bears jerseys. Might be a little desaturated, but I love the dark blue. You get no purple since we shifted a little bit over the green and warmed it up a little bit. Keep going down. We're going to add a little bit of clarity to them. And now let's mess with some curves in the mask. So this isn't adjusting the whole photo. It's really just adjusting him. Awesome. So right here, oh, that's weird. Why is it showing that as our before? That ain't it. Well, that's not our before. That's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. It's not like I expanded the entire photo. There we go. Before, after, before, after. Before, after. Okay, I think his pants are a little bit too bright for my liking, so we'll go to his mask on him and drop the highlights and the whites overall. And this photo is starting to look pretty dang cinematic, in my opinion. Just think we're lacking some contrast here, but I don't want to give it too much of a punch. I think we're dialed in there. I might just go and oversaturate some of those oranges. Get the skin tones in the jersey popping. Don't mess with the yellows too much. The oranges will get like the outside of the one, and then we'll get some in the skin tones. And I'm actually going to go ahead, and the last touch I'm going to make is going to be cropping him in a little bit more. Get a little bit of that tape on the ankle. And I think right there we got a great shot. He is clearly isolated from the background. I don't feel like there's any distracting features in the background. It's really just nicely framed with the players on the left, players on the right. This photo feels good to me. Going to the next one. This time we got Amon-Ra St. Brown, and this is one of my favorite photos from this game. So for this, it's going to be a bit of a different edit. We got to make sure that we can save that sky, and we can. It's an overcast day, so not too worried about it. So now, first things first, make some minor adjustments, of course. And we can make this more of a Moody type of edit and make those blues pop. First things first, subject. Okay. This is good for the select subject. I am actually going to make 3 different edits for this one, or 3 different masks for this one. First one is only going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we will take everybody out very roughly around him. Okay, so we got a pretty good mask that's only on St. Brown now. Good, and now we're going to duplicate and invert that. So now we have everything beyond him selected and everything of him selected. Then we're going to go one more, create mask, select subject, and we're going to select all of the players in this one. So we'll go through, select the players. Cool. Pretty good there. Get the helmet. All right. So we got Peyton here. She's somebody that I was working with during the game. Sorry, got to crop you out. I think it looks better whenever it's just the team. Maybe we can get the camera in there, but I like when it's just the players. Cool. Got that selected. Make sure we get that whole 14 on St. Brown. Okay, so now let's start messing with the different isolated spots. So first thing, we're going to adjust St. Brown, bring those shadows up. We're going to try and make him pop the most out of all of the players. Make sure his jersey is all dialed in. Make sure that's a pure white. Now we're going to go to the full background. That's players and everything. We're going to darken them. Like I said, we're going to make this a nice Moody edit. Seeing some pink tones in there that I do not like. Most of the time, Moody does mean dark. But I'm going to try my best to not make this too dark of an edit overall, and maybe more of a desaturated type edit. And St. Brown will be the only thing that is saturated. Now we're going to mess with the players as a whole. This is including St. Brown. So we want to make them pop. And now that I'm seeing it, I'm actually going to duplicate and invert this so we have everything but the players selected as well. And we're going to make that dark. Yeah, we're going to make that dark. So make those bleachers dark, make all the stands, the fans, everything above the players is going to be pretty dark. Go back to just St. Brown, and we're going to brighten him up. Once again, making sure that he's not blown out anywhere. Starting to like this. I think the players that aren't St. Brown are a little bit too bright. So I think that adjustment will be for all of them. And then we're going to go to St. Brown, brighten him up, make it look like he had like one ray of sunshine coming on him. And so now let's go to everything but St. Brown. We're going to drop the clarity a little bit. Where is it? There it is. Drop the clarity. So that makes him pop a little bit more. And then we're going to go to the background. That's not including any of the players. Drop the clarity a bunch on that. And we're actually going to drop the D. We're going to punch some D-haze in on that, I think. Go to the curves, give it a little more contrast in there. Go to St. Brown now. Give him a little bit of contrast. So you see that before, after, he's starting to pop. Now I want to go over to the blues. Saturate those blues for all the players. Change the hue so it's a little bit more of a baby blue than a dark blue. Give it some luminance because that's the that's the lion's blue. We're going to desaturate the reds, but we want to make sure that it doesn't affect any player's skin tones. Desaturate most colors that aren't blue. Saturate that. And realistically, it doesn't look super selectively colored. I think maybe we can bring some of the oranges back, because I don't like St. Brown's arms being lost. But I really like this selective coloring kind of look without it being overly selective colored, if that's how you would say that. I feel good about this one. Last thing I might do is go to the overall curves and just make some minor adjustments, a little bit more contrast. Sometimes in these midtones you can bring things out. Like, I think that helps a lot. Crush those blacks. More midtones. And just like that, I think we are good to go on that photo. Next thing, we have the anthem photos. So I was by Jared Goff and Aiden Hutchinson. And this is kind of going to be the same edit. But the one that we're going to edit is going to be of Jared Goff. Let's go select subject. This is super simple. It clearly selects the subject perfectly because there's really no other distracting features. We're going to duplicate and invert just like all the other photos, and now go back and do our minor adjustments. Very simple. Same thing we've been doing. We can even go in here and mess with some of the skin tones. If you want to keep that blue consistent, just go over there, make sure that baby blue is good. Mess with those skin tones. Brighten up the skin tones, darken them. I think I like them darkened a little bit. Brighten up those blues. But I was going to brighten the blues, but I'm going to bring them down just so we can maintain the detail in the jersey. Crop in a little bit so we don't have as much headroom. And now we're going to go to Goff, add some contrast, some highlights. Add a little bit of clarity to him. Now you know the drill. Go to the background, drop the clarity, drop the dehaze, and look at how much of a unique look it gives that. That nice gradient on the background, the blue being the lion's colors, and I might even add to the blue a little bit. Really give it a punch of blue. You can change the hue to match the jersey perfectly. And I think that looks really, really good. Shifting to the green a little bit more because I see some pink in that background. Then we can adjust the hue a little bit more to match it. And that right there feels perfect to me. Super sharp. Tones seem dialed in. Blues aren't exactly the same, but the blue and the blue makes you feel like you're at a Lions game, but you're at a Bears game, and that's kind of the advantage of both teams being blue, both teams being the same color, is you can get away with things like this. So now I'm actually just going to hold shift, and I'm going to click on the Aiden Hutchinson photo on the bottom. I'm going to click sync. make sure that you check masking there and uncheck crop. It's not the same photo, so you won't want the same crop, but when you do masking and you did the select subject, it should analyze the next photo and just select the subject and the background. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we will go ahead, check out that Aiden Hutchinson photo, and it looks pretty dang good. Go to your mask, see it selected the person next to him. Super simple, we just go to subtract. This time I'm going to go linear gradient, and you just go here, and it's going to select anything to the right. So now it's only him. We can even move that gradient over a little bit more, and we're going to go to the background, same kind of thing, but this time it's going to be add with a linear gradient. And there we go. Got that. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to mess with the background. Feels a little too cold because of that hood. Right. Get some more detail on his face. And just like that, there's the shot of Aiden Hutchinson. I cropped it a little bit before. You see there, that's what it was. That's what I ended up doing. I love the tight detail on his face. Moving on, now it's game time. First one is going to be of DJ Moore. Let's reset this from the beginning. The game photos end up being a little bit different than the pregame photos. Just to try it, I'm going to copy this one of Justin Fields earlier over to the one of DJ Moore. Make sure you check masking, uncheck cropping, sync, and see what we get. This mask isn't going to be perfect because the ref is behind him, but it gives you the same kind of aesthetic. So now whenever we go here, we see everything it's selected for the select subject. Let's go ahead and we're going to deselect everything that is around him, just using the linear gradient to start for the most part. Same thing, linear gradient. We're going to go everything to the right of him. And now, as you see, we will have to go in and brush out this cameraman. So let's go to brush. Make sure we show the overlay so we can see what we are deselecting. Whoops. And we're just going through deselecting him. I'm really just coloring this out with my mouse. Making sure that we don't have anything selected except for DJ Moore because we are going to want to isolate him from the background. I think I do remember seeing, oh, no, we took out that guy in the crowd. Now we're looking pretty good. And we're going to have to do the same thing, but in the other direction now. I don't think there's a way of copying this and putting it there without losing all of the info that you already have in. So we're just going to do the same thing, but we're going to add this time. So first thing actually is I'm going to subtract any part of DJ Moore from the background mask. And this also kind of shows us what we're going to need to go back and select into the foreground mask. So really just hands, feet, arms, I guess pretty much his whole body. Got that. And now we're going to go to add and linear gradient. Same kind of thing. We're just adding extra to the background. Same thing. Add linear gradient. Add more to the background. Now we're going to get a brush where we'll add to it. Color in that cameraman now. Make sure that he's part of the background. Trying to make this pretty accurate. Don't have to go in and nitpick every pixel, but the better it is, the better it will turn out, because once you isolate the background, it does start to show the little imperfections more than you would probably like. So now we're going to add, oh, wrong brush. This one. Nope, same thing. Add brush. Adding on to DJ Moore, making sure that that foreground is all selected. The ball, his arms, his feet, really every part of him. And now we can actually start to edit. So as you see, we have him selected, then we have the background selected. Let's go ahead, we'll start on him and make some minor corrections. Remember, these are the edits that were on that Justin Fields pregame shot. We're going to go to the background, and for the background, we're really going to drop that clarity for this one. We want him to pop. Drop that dehaze, and we'll darken it. Going to make this one a very unique look with the haze and not very high contrast on the background, but whenever we make him more contrasted, more saturated, it'll make him pop much, much more. So I'm thinking we might even crop in a little bit here. Make sure we still see the pylon there so we see it's a touchdown. But I like it without the Lions player. I think it isolates it a little bit more. We can even play around with the roll of thirds. That's pretty good. I like seeing the fans in the background too. Now let's go and just mess around with the photo as a whole. Got to be careful with those pants that they don't get too blown out. I think there might be a lot of power in these mid-tones here for us to make some adjustments. Don't want to overdo it though, or else it makes it look like you're an amateur editor. Now I do think we're going to go back, center them up a little bit, but I don't know if I want to have the player's toe in it. That to me seems distracting. So we'll go right outside of it. Like I said before, you still see the pylon right there, which is great. And I think overall this is a great photo to have from a big moment in the game, the first touchdown of the game. You want to still hold some context of what happened throughout the actual game. Cool. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little mask. Well, I'm going to put a little mask with a brush on his pants. Make sure that we're not losing any data on his thighs. Add a little bit more. Obviously, don't want to make them too dark, but we can afford to drop them a little bit. Just to make them not distracting. I hate whenever something's super blown out and distracting. It drives me crazy. Moving on. Now we got LaPorta, who at the time of filming this, he just played against the Broncos and had 3 touchdowns. He's one of the best rookies in the league. I was skeptical whenever they traded TJ Hutchinson last year before the trade deadline, but the fact that they ended up being able to draft LaPorta ends up being a pretty good move. I like seeing all of the Bears players around him here. There's something that happens with telling a story in this photo because it's all Bears players and then clearly LaPorta celebrating a first down. So we're going to keep that right there. Keep him framed in. Maybe come and make sure that there's the same amount of space on the sides of each Bears player. That looks good. Same thing as we've been doing, but we're going to do 3 different masks similar to how we did the Amon-Ra St. Brown one. So select subject. That one is going to be all the players. I love it. Now we're going to go to create mask. And we're going to, let's do select people because I saw maybe it can get just LaPorta. Okay. Create mask. And now we're only going to have to deselect number 29. And we already have LaPorta all selected. Go in here. Subtract. Brush. Start brushing him out. This is what they don't see whenever they see these cool edits on my Instagram. A lot of hard work just pretty much coloring in Lightroom. But that's how I like to do it. That's how I've kind of garnered my own style in these edits is by selecting each subject and really editing the photo one portion at a time. Eventually, I'd love to get that good at color grading. And man, a little secret here. I just downloaded DaVinci, as you see at the bottom. I'm going to try and get better at color grading. Duplicate and invert mask. Now we have everybody selected. We have just LaPorta, and we have just the players, and then the players plus the background. The last thing we're going to do is go here, duplicate and invert the mask with all the players. Now we have just the background selected. First thing we're going to do is just the background, the one that we're on right now. Drop that clarity, drop that dehaze, start to get that look that we've been trying to get. Drop the shadows, blacks, bring the highlights up, bring the blacks up actually. Cool. Now let's go to just LaPorta. Make sure nothing's blown out on his jersey. Give him some saturation because we want him to pop the most out of all the players. Looks a little pink to me. Warm him up. Okay, now we're going to go with all of the players. Give them a little bit of stylistic touch. Looks like those jerseys are good. They're a little warmer. They don't look purple at all, which is good. Pretty much just editing the Bears players right now, even though LaPorta is selected. Now I'll go to the Bears players plus the background. Don't want to lose any detail in their jerseys. Making this one more of a Moody edit, as you can see. Was a cloudier day, so that's what you got to do. Go back to LaPorta, make sure he's all even out. Now we're going to go to all of the players, including him. Start adjusting the curves. Let's go to him now. This is where we start to make LaPorta pop more than the other players. We're also going to go in after this and saturate those blues. But before, I want to select the whole background, including those players. Desaturate them a little bit. Give them a little bit more contrast. Now let's go to only the background. Drop in the dehaze a little bit more, maybe drop some texture. Go to the players that aren't LaPorta. Where's that? Where'd that be? Right there. Drop a little texture, a little bit of clarity on them. Now he's really popping, and we're going to go and isolate some colors now. So desaturate the greens, a little bit of yellows. Keep those oranges up. Really get those blues going. Desaturate everything else. Go to the luminance. Pop those blues. Go to the hue. Bring it down to those lion blue. And right there, I'm pretty happy with how that one looks. I think he's pretty isolated. The only other thing I'm going to do is really just make the crop right below his leg. Still got the same amount of space between this player and those players. Move it over a little bit more. Drop some highlights overall. And I think we're good on that one. Before, after. Before, after. Like I said, it's a lot of isolating specific things. It's going in, editing one layer at a time, and just building out that edit as you go. Only a few more. I don't know if we're going to edit all of these, but maybe we will. Maybe we won't. I feel like it's the same techniques that we've been doing. This one's going to be very similar to the last one. So let's go ahead and we will sync those. We'll go these two because all that those are is select subject and then the select background. Let's see if we can copy and paste that. Go to the mask, and right there it's select subject, select background. So we're pretty good there. I think the background could be a little bit brighter. Part of me almost wants to take the Bears player out and just keep Jahmyr Gibbs in, but I really do like this photo of Gibbs. Right there, I think we're good. He is perfectly centered up. Clearly pops more in the photo. It might be the white jersey, but I really like this. And we are actually, I don't like to do this a lot. Let's see if it'll let me edit in Photoshop. If it lets me, it lets me. Sometimes there's a bug going to beta and it's going to work. Okay, we're going to select this photographer in the background. You guessed it, generative fill. We're going to remove him. Sometimes you say remove, sometimes you say nothing. That time I said nothing. If it doesn't work, we'll say remove. We got to make this picture less distracting. Looks like we have a bag sitting over here. We have another person over there, but look at how good that is. So now we'll select this person plus whatever's laying on the ground plus this person. We'll do the bag in the same selection, and this time we'll say remove. Just like that. Photo's less distracting. And then we're going to go over one more thing. This really might be John standing right here. Sorry. Got to remove you. This one's harder because it's closer to the actual subject that we're trying to keep in. But as long as you get those skin tones that are close, that's what's really going to screw you if you don't get it. But we're going to go generative fill, remove once again, and hopefully it doesn't get confused with the player, because usually once you get closer to a subject, it will get confused, but we might be able to get lucky on this one. And we got lucky. Perfect. Okay. Now, that is a much less distracting photo. See those lines around it? I'm going to go with the second option. But that looks really good to me. That photo is a lot better than I expected it to be. I can confidently say this is not one that I thought was going to be my favorite. But here we are, and one of my favorites. Make sure that it connects back to Lightroom. Give it a second to save. Once it'll save in Photoshop, it'll come in, should have a copy of it. But worst case, you can just export from Photoshop. But right there you go. Right here we got Gibbs and only Gibbs. Moving on. This one is Aiden Hutchinson. Now this one is really going to rely on separating him from the background. We obviously wish that he was solo in the frame here. This was right after a sack that he had on Justin Fields. I do think I'm going to go back and edit that one of him sacking Justin Fields, but we're just going to get the celebration for now. We're going to try to copy and paste that one from Jahmyr Gibbs, and I know we're going to have to polish up that select subject, but I think it'll give us a good starting point. Right here, yep, selected all the players exactly how I expected. Now we're going to go, we are going to subtract to the linear gradient to get everything from the left side there. Now we are going to subtract with a brush, show the overlay so we can see what we're deselecting. And just coloring once again. And we're going to have to do the same thing with the background. So we'll go add linear gradient, select that, Show the overlay, add brush. We're going to add this player behind Aiden Hutchinson. And just like that, we have the foreground and the background selected. Now let's go. We'll stop showing the overlay, and now let's isolate them. So now we want Hutchinson to pop. So let's go to the background, check out what the values are that we have. This is the one that we dropped the dehaze and the clarity a bunch already. So we're really going to push that. Make this one much darker in the background. That'll allow us to make him pop. Really crush those blacks. We can bring the whites back up a little bit though. Background, I think, is going to rely a lot on the curves. All right. Now, obviously, we're going to crop some of this off. I like the blue line up there, but I think we're going to end up doing away with it. We're going to crop it so it's a gradient going up. And this one, you clearly see Hutchinson celebrating. Kind of like him being isolated like that, but go up a little more. See, the cropping is kind of just trial and error. That one right there, before, after, before, after. And I think just like that, we got it. I love that edit. I really do. This DJ Moore one is pretty much going to be the same as him celebrating before. So with that, we'll go grab the values from Justin's photo, sync those up. It didn't even select the right subject. This edit is going to be the same. I don't think there's any value. That's going to be the same as this one. I don't think there's any value in me showing you how I do that. This one, this one, this one. These are all edits that I'm going to do for whenever I post the photos. But realistically, this one, all it would be is me cropping in a good amount. We want that detail on Justin's face. You could even go crazy and crop in a ton. And go like that. Obviously, there's some grain there. But if you're just curious and want to play around with it, you can go to the denoise feature. So I was shooting at 2500 ISO. That's because I'm shooting on an f4 lens. I'm not on the 2.8. I'm going to drop the denoise down to 30. And now if you give it a second, it will load, and then we'll be able to see if it's a problem in resolution or if it's a problem in noisiness. Okay, so now it has been denoised, and it's definitely a noise thing because this looks very sharp to me still. If we zoomed out a little bit, maybe it'd be better, or we could go more of an abstract kind of composition, and I actually might like that to go here. I think we might go there, and I'm going to remove this helmet, and I'm going to move this body. So go back to selecting everything that we want. Which one is this going to be similar to? I would say it's actually going to be similar to these Anthem shots. So we'll grab the Jared Goff one, sync it. Gonna have to really mess with that background because the background is to be a lion's photo. So we'll just reset those values. Crush those shadows, crush those blacks. And all of a sudden, I don't know why this is so blue. Oh, we probably desaturated everything else. No, maybe not. There were greens back there. I like the green still popping. Yeah, maybe it was just a lot of reds and blues. I want to make sure that this maintains the normal color. Oh, that looks insane. Was on saturation instead of hue. So we'll go to hue. Make sure that that's the bear's orange. Go to skin tones now. And we're just making minor adjustments. I think there's a little too much pink in his skin tones. Make that jersey a little more teal. He still looks a little too pink for my liking. So we're going to have to pick between that or the helmet. And I think we're going to pick his skin tones. His face still looks pretty pink. I think overall we can go here to the mask of him. Brighten it up. Bring it over to the green. Maybe warm it up a little bit. So now I'm going to do a little trick that I haven't done in these ones yet, but it's very, very simple. So we're going to go to select background. That'll select everything but him. And then we are going to subtract with a linear gradient. We're going to subtract the bottom. So now we're only going to have this top section selected, and we're going to make that pretty dark. So that comes with exposure, shadows, and blacks. Maybe pop those whites a little bit too, just to give it a lot of contrast. And then we're going to do the same thing, select background. We're going to subtract, but this time we're going to subtract with the linear gradient, and this time we're going to subtract the top. So now we're only selecting the bottom. We're going to really brighten that bottom. So that gives us a nice gradient. And the last thing I think we're going to do is we're going to go to that background, the whole background, and we are going to mess with those blues because I want it to be like a bear blue. Subtract that. I want this navy blue. Something to match those uniforms. We can even go to the color dropper and really give it some nice dark blue there. There we go. Really drop that saturation. And just like that, we are going to right click, edit in Photoshop. I go in beta so I can use generative fill. And same kind of thing, get the lasso tool. Remove. Got that. And then last thing we're going to do is go here. Remove. Hopefully this doesn't mess it up with the jersey. It should do a pretty good job since it shows the angle that his body is going down. And just like that, that's good. That makes it look like he's that. Cool. Zoom in, make sure there's nothing funky going on here. I don't like what's going on in his back, so we're going to go here. We're going to merge these layers. Now we're just going to go here. Just let it do its thing. It should polish it up and really just make it that dark blue that we want. I think that's our best option right there. Right there, you guys know that I did that. No, that's our best option. Nobody else will know that. You guys know. I'm happy it's you guys that know, though. But that's it. Right there for NFL photos. If you're curious how I'll export, I'll select them. I'll go Command-Shift-E. I'm going to name them Bears versus Lions. Go ahead, do 100%. That's what I'll do for the NFL ones. I want them to look good and crisp. Select your location. click export, and you are good to go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this editing tutorial helped you. This, paired with the organization one, is a real-world example of how you're a sports photographer, because it doesn't stop the organization. It also doesn't only come down to the editing. The organization and the sending, that's the real part of being a photographer. The editing, that is more for your portfolio, maybe for the client. So you got to do both. Not everything is the most fun thing in the world, because sometimes you're just sitting there renaming files over and over again. But I hope these 2 videos helped you, and drop a comment down below if you've made it this far. Do you think Justin Fields will be the Bears quarterback next year?